Welcome everyone to another exciting episode of Joy of Performing with two very interesting guests, two very interesting speakers. But before we start, I'll give you all a few minutes, and I'll request our eminent speakers to just wait for 2 more minutes so that everyone can settle down, and then we can start. Let us give everyone a few minutes. Okay, let's start. So, first of all, thank you all for joining us. And at least I can say this from Delhi. Thank you for joining on winter evening. and and welcome back to one of again the exciting workshop webinar of Joy Performing. And as we have promised that we'll keep on bringing uh, webinars on exciting topics, and we'll introduce you to very interesting speakers from the industry. And so here, with that, let me welcome our two eminent speakers, Sukhpreet Swaran Sandhu and Ms. Siji Varghese. And I will just briefly introduce them, and then I'll request Sukhpreet and Siji to introduce them. Sukhpreet is recognized as one of the Fortune's Asia 100 power leaders and also a 40 under 40 HR leader, where CG is a three-time TEDx speaker and also leaders in lipstick, Karamveer Chakra recipient from United Nations. Let us all welcome our two eminent speakers. I'm very excited to have a conversation with them, and I'm sure our audience are going to love the conversation that we are going to have with them and learn a lot. So thank you again, Sukhpreet and Siji. Welcome. And with that, Sukhpreet, can you introduce yourself to our audience?
Definitely. I think you've already set the great pace. Hey, everyone. Sukhpreet, I think he's introduced me already. Close to about 2 decades of experience in the industry, built a couple of startups, unicorns in the past. HR professional, a fitness enthusiast, and a foodie at heart. That's all I can introduce myself as. Based out of Delhi, NCR, a very extended area of NCR called Greater Noida, wherein a lot of times people tell me that you require visa to go there because it's too far from the base Delhi NCR. So that's where I'm based. Excited to be a part of Joy Performing and with Ravi, Siji, and the entire team here, and all the other attendees here who are watching us here. So looking forward to a greater time and a very interactive session with all of you.
Thank you, Sukhpreet. Siji, can you briefly introduce yourself to our audiences?
Yeah, thank you so very much for that introduction. And Ravi, thank you for having me here in the Joy of Performing. And thank you everyone for being with us right now and later on as well. I'm Siji Varghese, and I'm the founder of Leaders in Lipstick. Having close to 27 years of corporate experience, been in this space of training and development from the last 14 years, done close to 1,000 workshops with around 85,000 participants. I'm a global keynote speaker too. And yeah, I've been on the TED platforms thrice, officially a TEDx speaker too. I'm a sucker for learning and I'm a student for life. Done a lot in behavioral sciences. That's where my forte is. Looking forward to a very engaging, kind of interaction here. Thank you.
Interesting. Thank you, Siji, and thank you for bringing us those Christmas vibes too. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So let me introduce my audience to today's topic with one of the famous quotes by Dalai Lama. Just one small positive thought in the morning can change your whole day. And with that, let me introduce you all. Today's agenda or today's topic is leading with joy, building organizational culture that thrives. Now, with joy, on one hand, an organization culture on the second hand, right? Let us try to ask our panelists that joy is often considered a personal emotion. Definitely, it's a personal emotion. How we can connect joy to organization culture, and how does it influence overall team and business performance also? So let us first of all understand about the joy as a personal emotion and where does it connect with the organization culture. Fiji, I'll come to you first.
Okay, what better day than now? We are literally towards the end of the year and it's Christmas and it's joy all around. We find the vibes out there. There's a very great saying, like if there's someone sad in your home, you cannot be happy or there can't be joy in the home, which means even having one person not happy can make the environment pretty taxing and tension kind of a thing at home. Similarly, at a workplace, because we are an extension professionally and personally too. We carry what we are personally into the profession and we carry what's into the profession personally too. So it's integrated, it's interwoven. So we can't stay happy in one place and sad in another place. It's there. I basically feel joy in a workplace is something that is a culture, it's a mindset. It's easier to set yourself to think negative, but it takes a lot of efforts to be more joyful, right? It's saying it's a very natural thing for a human being to delve more into the negative aspects than the positive, or have more optimistic than to have a pessimistic kind of a thing. So when you come to an organization where you have diverse kinds of people, where you have deadlines and timelines, and you have emotional intelligence, the IQs of different people differently spaced, you surely do not know how it works, right? So joy is something that's beautiful. Joy is something that which gives you purpose. Joy is something that gives you meaning. Joy is something that makes you fulfilled and wants you to get up on a Monday and say, I don't have a Monday blue. I'm enjoying it and I love to come to work on a Monday. That's my definition of a joy.
Very nice. I think so you've kept defined it very beautifully. Joy with purpose and a meaning and that fulfillment kept very interesting. Sukhpreet, now I'll come to you and please expand on it.
I think Siji spoke something very interesting. She spoke about purpose. She spoke about meaning. And above all, she spoke about something that I did about 12, 13 years ago in one of the organizations I worked with, which is called Thank God It's Monday. That was directly linked to one of the organization values that we had, which is called bringing joy to customers, wherein the customers meant everyone, right? So including your housekeeping staff, to your core team members, to your people who visit in the organization as visitors, to your clientele and the end users. I look at joy, definitely it's a personal emotion. I mean, if I ask all of you at a workplace, how would you define joy? All of us will have a very different, or some of us may have some common answers. I think from a organization standpoint, when I bring an HR angle and a business angle, joy, it is linked to the definition, right? One of interesting initiatives that I've done in the past is the fact to run something called individual engagement drivers. Now that way, what happens that irrespective, you have 10 people with you or 100 people with you or 1,000 people with you, when you go back and try and understand exactly what drives them, they become more successful in the organization. At the end of the day, everyone is here getting paid to sell some sort of skill and expertise that they carry, whether it is me, you, or anyone. Yeah. So definition of joy is very important. What defines them to be happy? I mean, see, today, happiness is like a wave, right? Emotions go up, emotions go down, right? Today, I may be very happy because I have something, as she spoke about, CG spoke about very interestingly, that what you do sometimes at personal side, you bring it at your professional side and the otherwise as well, right? So these social transactions really help you in terms of defining what joys are. But talking primarily from the organization standpoint, I think definition of joy is very important. Every leader who works with their team, they should know how my team members are driven, right? There is a very strong generalized opinion these days in the market. I think many of you perhaps may agree or disagree. I think largely would disagree with me, but I'm okay to express my thoughts here, right? Is the fact that, these Gen Zs are, very difficult people to work with. Everyone is difficult to work with. I am very difficult to work with. You guys will be very difficult to work with as well, But having said that, when you analyze your team members, figure out that, okay, this is what
Hmm.
drives them, this is what brings joy to them, and that what will bring joy to my business and the outcome at the end of the day, let's say my top line, bottom line, whatever matrix that I'm chasing in the organization, that really defines a lot of element to it. Second part to it, I would say, linking it, around, not rather linking, maybe rather, I would say, largely around what kind of transparency you bring in the organization. See, let's be very clear. Everyone, whenever you work, whether you are an entrepreneur, whether you are a gig worker, you are a millennial or a baby boomer or whatever, Gen X, Alpha, whatever, Beta, Gamma, whatever you call yourself, you look for clarity and alignment in the organization.
Hmm.
The moment those things are your unaddressed needs, I call them as psychological needs, right? Or psychological safety, element is addressed. I think largely everything is just a cakewalk. Everywhere, people problems are the same, right? Issues generally remain the same. Processes generally remain the same. Compliances remain the same. What makes it different is the business dynamic and the people dynamic. That's what we have to marry together. I think once that gets done, uh, maybe with a lack of any evidence right now, but I can say that yes, it may get some element of joy gets spiked up.
Very interesting. So, just not for people, it is for the leaders also. Do not just invest in the people, invest in knowing the people, invest in what will bring them the joy. And definitely, we as a individual beings must also find out at what where we find joy in. That is also very, very important. And I think so now, by now, as per CG and Sukhpreet, you must have understood that how important it is to inculcate that joy in those cultural values and address it. Okay, so moving forward, thank you. Now, very interesting topic, and thank you, Sukhpreet and CG, to introduce that in the questionnaire. Now, we are talking about, organizations are talking about bringing workforce back to the office. And I'm sure that I also hear it from my colleagues, from my cousins, that they are not finding joy in it. Okay. It is somehow they've been for a very long period, they've been working from home and they've been accustomed to that. Okay. Now they are finding it very hard to go back to the office. Now, just setting that context, thinking that context, how has this transition influenced the perception of joy in the workplace? Will there be the difference now, or how now the organization on one hand are thinking about it, or working again they have to work on their culture, or how those people are also going to think about it? What are the different strategies at one hand the leaders can think of, another hand the people can think of? So Sukhpreet, you can take up from the leader's point of view, organization point of view.
Sure. I think, see, building culture is a continuous process, right? It's continuously evolving.
Hmm.
I'm going to use a very weird analogy, right? It's like a successful marriage, right? You look at that, people have been successful for about 20, 25, 30 years. I saw my parents like, 35, 37 years, married together. It's like putting in that effort on a daily basis to ensure that I'm successful. So it's a daily effort, right? Just
Yes.
like sustaining friendships, relationships, it's like sustaining that kind of culture.
Hmm.
So on a daily basis, it's about the kind of work that you do, the kind of ethics that you bring, the kind of ethos that you bring to the organization. About calling people back to office or maybe changing the way, I think I've seen the pushbacks that a lot of organizations have faced, not to name anyone on an open platform here. But having said that, what organization can definitely look at is the fact, see, one is about the messaging. I think which wherever place I was when this entire change was carried out, I think a lot of people, a lot of organizations weren't even ready that, oh, can my people operate from home? Because I'm like somebody who's like a satellite over my team members because I micromanage them to a level that nobody does that to them. Now that change was itself was a very big setback. A lot of companies received a setback, right?
Right.
Whilst the BCPs were handy, people were able to do those transitions. I think the messaging is supposed to be something that if some of the organization would have done it well was the fact that it is a temporary setup. So
Right.
people register it, and you always throw that hammer that we're gonna be back, we're gonna be back. People get it. Also, if I work from this room, right, for about 14 days, 15, I'll get accustomed to it, right?
Mm.
So yes, one is the messaging. Second is your employee value proposition. That's very important. I mean, what's in it for you? 5 years ago, I mean, COVID is like a bygone now. It's like sitting December 2024, right? And we're talking about what, 2020, right?
Yeah.
So almost 4.5 years, things have really changed. So one is to handle pushbacks well, right? Is about going back to the fact that, again, humans are social animals. You need face time. You just don't need a screen to talk to you always, right? Irrespective, you have so many ads. From a leadership standpoint, that's also important to inculcate not just a peacocking culture that, okay, now earlier the walls were gray, now these are, purple color or yellow color. Come see what is. All these things are just very superficial at nature.
Mhm.
But having said that, one is a continuous evolution of the culture, your drivers, right? Definitely, a lot of companies have seen their culture drivers changing because the way the workforce dynamics changed, their perspectives changed. And last but not the least, I would also like to highlight here is the fact that role of leaders to wear the HR hat. I think a lot of times we miss this, right? I'm sure many of the HR professionals and non-HR professionals as well who may be listening and watching this one would, to an extent, would agree with me because that's a very common emotion that we may connect with. HR professionals are asked to understand business and have a business hat on, but a lot of ways we miss on bringing that HR hat to the leaders to lead the team. So I think those are some of the elements that really help, right? A lot of us, a lot of people, a lot of organizations, possibly to make this thing transition slightly smoother, right? But again, it's too big to comment on, right? There are so many different humans, peoples involved, but if they address those needs, as I said earlier, right? If you ask me personally, hybrid is the way forward, right? While some jobs can remain remote forever, but of course, retail outlets can't be just manufacturing. So it's always industry based, right? I mean, I can give a generalized opinion, but industries to industries it could differ. But largely, if these things are taken care of in the eyes of the HR leaders and business leaders, I'm certainly sure some bit of transitions can be smoother. Again, a very personal opinion.
Yeah. Okay. So what I picked up is definitely a value prop, employee value prop is very important when we're calling them back because they have been accustomed to a style of working for a longer period. And definitely, yes, what second thing which I picked up is a social animal. We are social animal. I do not want to talk to screen. I would love to have this conversation webinar in person, not via on Zoom. So I'm sure that people will also be interested in that now. And with that thought, let us, Siji, understand you from you the employee side of the story, right? Now with the back to office again, now people are some companies are pushing their workforce to come back to office. So how people are taking it, okay? What kind of a cultural setups now the employees also have to take care of, because I understand when they work from home, they are entirely a different story. But when we reach office, sit together, there's a different game altogether.
Very interesting one, Ravi. So, I just read a statistic today that 1 out of 4 people are socially isolated. Okay.
Ouch.
And that's a very alarming space that we are in. I recall that when we had to work from home, it was so difficult because in my era, in 1997, when I started my career, I would never know that there could be a work from home. And that suddenly became the norm for everyone.
No, yeah.
Yeah, my kids studied from home, school from home. I never thought about homeschooling. Forget homeschooling, it is school in the house, right? There was so much of paradoxes, so much of ironical things that you never thought happened.
Right.
I still remember my husband is such a socially active person. When he had to be confined into the 4 walls of the bedroom, he used to actually get a little bit psyched off. He was like thinking, when do I go back being with people, interacting with people, and have that space. Okay, having said that, the 2 years of staying at home made people feel so comfortable in that space that when it started saying that you come back to work, people started cribbing and feeling lost, and there was something.
Yeah.
Now, what worked as a midway balanced, out of the 6 or the 5 days of working, 2 days at work and 3 days you operate from home. Now, this is what is working as a very balanced space in many of the, especially the IT space, where you can do work remotely too. Not forever, but because being socially isolated, at the end of the day, you have a team to support you. You need to be there because we are Homo sapiens and we need that kind of connect every single time. Otherwise, we are lost. It's very alarming to have read this that 1 out of 4 is socially isolated. And I keep thinking this to myself, like when kids are confined to one space just with their mobile gadgets, just technologically being available and not there, it's going to be a very scary, a very dark space where we're going to be threatened with multiple
Mhm.
issues. One is your well-being, your mental well-being. Your mental well-being is challenged a big time. You are not developing core skills. You're not developing people skills. And people skills are very important. How long can you work in remotely and not have that people interaction? You are not developing a lot of other core skills, which is important for you to be there. So as an individual, I feel it has a detrimental impact if you're always working remotely. A hybrid, as Sukhpreet has rightly said, a little yaha, little waha. We meet at the midway and we work a pure, beautiful blend. That's perfect, I feel. As of now, that's how I look at. And it's industry specific again, because many organizations have really, the culture has gone in massive transformation in terms of addressing multiple things, in terms of even the infrastructure. Like you have your sick beds, you have your isolation rooms, you have your cafeterias, yeah, you have a lot many things which has infrastructurally also changed post COVID. So which is very interesting. And at the same time, this is something, and there are many, as you know, the Gen Zs have got into this vibe right away. So we come from there, from the Gen X, where we are still dabbling between it. But yes, for most of us, hybrid works perfect.
Right. So thank you, CJ. So I'll urge everyone, right? Uh, Now, the next time when this socially unaligned kind of surveys come up, so I think so we must challenge it. It should be 0 to 5, okay? And no one should be socially unaligned because we are social animal. We need people, and I think so. That is what uh, impacts that cultural change, whether it is your personal at home culture or either a culture in office, however policies we make. But if people are not there to celebrate it, people are not there people are there to practice it, then what's the fun? What's the joy in it? So yeah, hybrid is a sentiment that's coming out.
So Ravi, I just had a very funny thing to share. Like
Please.
we have a 2 bedroom hall kitchen. 4 of us are very happy to stay there. But during a remote working space, we feel this house is very small because each one of us required a full room, and we would keep ourselves locked up throughout the day. We
Right.
hardly, though we are in the same, under the same roof, we hardly connect at all. So I feel so many things have changed. I mean, I feel it's better to be having a mid-path balanced
No, I
space.
totally agree. And I can share a very quick use case or this company was doing this is a Bangalore-based company. They were our clients. And during they are also an IT company and uh, they completely they took the benefit of the entire thing. They saved on the real estate space and they said that okay, now from on we'll all will be having the remote working. But then the one of the ways that they thought that it's very important to actually be in front of the people, because as a cultural value they always were in front of the people and by different activities or the methods. What they did was they made sure that every week the founders and the leaders are getting in front of everyone at least 5 minutes or 15 minutes, depending on the team size. So they were having those small calls, 5 to 15 minutes maximum. And they are not going to ask you about how you are doing, how you're performing, nothing on the performance, just sharing, okay, hey, I hope you are doing good. Is there any problem with you? Is your family good? And they also used to ask, sir, is your family good? How are you doing it? That's it. So I believe in hybrid times also people and the leaders have, and such a policy definitely is the brainchild of one of our HR leaders in those organizations, that as a leaders, you must be in front of them, whether they are working from home, doesn't matter. So something to share. Uh, and I shared that small strategy just to come up as a context for the next question. Okay. Leading cultural transformation as an HR leaders. Okay. HRs are the enablers or the custodian of the culture in the organization. Now, they were legacy practices, and now there are modern innovation, modern thoughts, or maybe uh, due to times of COVID, or maybe due to maybe the stretch goals now we are taking up because business is so volatile and dynamic. So, as a leader, how can you assess and evolve your culture without losing the core values? Because something I believe now we are in between, okay, of those expectations. Okay, those were the legacy practices which will keep on coming, and the modern times are challenging us. So, how can you keep those balances? So, please, I would like to hear first from you, if you can. Sukhpreet, you are on mute.
I think, as you rightly said, that uh, you know, there has to be an amalgamation, right? So, looking at the fact that are we open to listen to people, right? Now, each organization has its legacy, and legacy defines its future, right? Whether you talk about any large conglomerate, you talk about a startup that has just been incubated right now, um, there is always a legacy that it carries. Now, with that legacy, when you talk about what are those technically, the amalgamation pieces, I think what I look at is the fact that one, how agile the organization has become, right? Those legacy factors should not pull you back, right? Now, legacy factors would also include how you shape up the role of people function or an HR function. These are swanky terms these days for HR, right? So, or talent or a people and culture team. So that is very important for you to have those definitions clear, right? That is one. Second, how those legacies push through those agilities. Now you have to define what are the business challenges that you're facing, right? And culturally, how your teams are aligned, or maybe I would say they trust you, or they have that kind of a belongingness to solve that with you. So legacy is that is your base foundation. On top of it, you define those agilities, right? That may differ from organization to organization, right? The second part to it, as I said earlier, the openness to change, right? Um, I think one interesting activity that we used to do in the past is the fact that allowing people to ask why. A lot of us hate getting questioned. Legacies say, work the way I tell you. Don't question my intellect or my decision making. These days, people would want to question you sometimes if they sense that you may not be the expert or an expert in all the fields. I'm sure you would have heard these terms. A lot of leaders in the organization can say that, okay, this X function, I can do that. All right. Or this Y function, oh, I can do that. Why do we need people? Or why do we want to work like this? So definitely, you are not an expert. You may know things based on your first principles model. Having said that, are you looking at from a factor of even being open to get questioned, right? For my fellow folks who's listening, perhaps for all of us as well, it takes a simple thing to allow people to ask why.
Mm.
Maybe a form that you can roll out. Ask why. People may ask you things like, why are you into that business? Why don't we do that business? It may help you with that. You never know, you can incubate a very beautiful idea out of it, maybe a business line that you may not have really thought of. Or you may come across responses that I've read in the past, something like this orange wall in front of me is too gaudy, it really distracts me. Why do we have an orange wall in front of my workstation? So you may come across responses like these to responses like business. So that's why the legacy is there. Definitely there is a legacy. But as we say, change is needed. As things change, right? Your business plans change, dynamics change, your matrix, KPIs, everything change, right? For that matter, financial status change over a period of time, right? If you're a listed company today, you're like booming up and tomorrow you're down. You never know. So with that, these small little things really help organizations to really ensure that, yes, I have a legacy that I want to carry, but that legacy requires some amount of change, some amount of beautification, right? Some amount of renovation, some amount of reconstruction of everything that you look at, whether these are policies, processes, for that matter, right? There are so many things you come across these days. Companies, every organization is doing something or the other on every aspect of people and the culture side. Having said that, but have they killed the legacy? Absolutely not. So these are some of the things I sense that companies can really look at from a leadership, from a people, from a business standpoint.
Yeah, thank you, Sukhpreet. So, guys, legacy, okay, is something that I love the first line, Sukhpreet. Legacy builds your future, right? Legacy decides your future, because
Yeah.
that is what we have earned till date. So, do not misinterpret or do not misread your legacy. But yes, on the same side, he also expanded that how important it is in recognizing the changing times, in adopting those small necessary changes. We have to and include it with the legacy, carry to the legacy, but yes, also do not overlook those modern needs or the changes. Siji, there's one very interesting question, though this question is very common, but I would like to now connect it with our next question and make it a little more interesting. So the question is, can joy in workplace coexist with high pressure environment? And how can leaders maintain balance? Okay. So now, can you just answer that question and keeping in mind the accountability and joy, because that is what the crux of the question is.
It's a very interesting one again. When we talk about the legacy, as Sukhpreet said, or the culture for that matter, a very interesting fact is that what I found in the recent times, whenever we go around, interact with the HR or the leaders, one constant thing that people keep telling is that we want everyone to start having a growth mindset and also operating from an ownership space. I don't want my team members to any longer have an employee mindset. I want them to have an entrepreneurial mindset. Now, the big question here is, what is the difference between an entrepreneurial and an employee mindset? Okay. Now, most of the workshops of ours are basically to align most of the individuals with understanding what ownership it means, and to also say it just doesn't start with the leader, it also starts with you. It's just not that you have to wait till the leader makes a change. Because a typical thing that happens in any training program is, we have got trained here, we've got empowered here. What about the ones at the top? So something that they really want to align here is that it starts with everyone. Do not wait for someone else to, be the torch bearer of it. Everyone is a torch bearer. Now, one very interesting thing is that when you're talking about ownership, accountability, or responsibility, and also talk about joy. Now, these are two important elements, it's on the other side of the space. Now, many of us, because like we say, the most beautiful place in this world is called as the comfort zone, right? But we never have seen magic happening in the comfort zone.
Yeah.
Only when you're outside the comfort zone, in the effort zone, that makes the difference. So the first step when you move from the comfort zone is the fear zone, because there's a lot of self-doubt. And here is when a leader comes in and says, come on, I too have made mistakes. It's okay for you to make mistakes too. As leaders, exhibiting vulnerability, it's a very important element. It kind of helps you to be creative, to make mistakes, to be innovative, to take the risk, right? It does give you a lot of self-doubt, because when you're in the comfort zone, you are thinking the entire world is beautiful. Only when you're outside and you're like, oh my God, where am I? What if? A lot of self-doubt comes in, right?
Right.
This is also the time when we create that space as leaders where we talk about feedback as a mechanism. It's not like that, the manager picks up the call and tells you, come inside my room, I have a feedback for you. And you're like, Arey, ab kya ho gaya? Right? It is like, it's not a feedback, it's a feed forward.
Yeah.
Whatever, henceforth, what are some of the things that you need? What are some of the resources that you need? Go ahead with that. So as a leader, how can I ensure that I exhibit this? Feedback as a mechanism, vulnerability, having an understanding that there are diverse kinds of perspectives, and can I have those diverse inclusion of the perspectives with myself. Now, joy happens when there's fulfillment. Joy happens when there is purpose. Joy happens when you are still aligning with the core values together. So when you're talking about accountability, am I aligning it with my core values? Am I aligning it with my fulfillment and the purpose? I say a very classic example, especially in today's generation. I know when my grandparents started working, they used to work for survival. That was important. Because survival was taken care of, my parents started working for a living. Because survival and living both were taken care of, I started working for a lifestyle. Now survival, living, and lifestyle is taken care of. And the current generation comes in saying, all that is taken care of. What do I come for? I come to make a difference. I come to make a meaningful space. I want to create significance. I want to make a difference. So are we able to align that purpose? Are we able to connect that? Are we investing enough time to take the people from where they are to a place where they never knew that they could be there? And that's what a leader is. In 21st century leader, we do not talk about any other leadership style, but of talking about a transformative leader, right? And for being a transformative leader, you ask to ask yourself, am I still with a fixed mindset, or do I have an evolving growth mindset? That's a continuous question you need to ask. And so if you have to bring in joy, there's a lot of self-work and inner re-engineering as a leader you need to keep working on. Ask yourself, what are my responsibilities here, and how can I go ahead and make that change or the difference? Because I'm so beautifully placed in my comfort zone, because after the comfort zone comes the fear zone. Once you're through the fear, it's when you start learning. Okay, this is what I need to learn so that I get better with my space. And from the learning space, you move to your growth zone. That's where your growth zone is. So asking yourself, working on your space, being proactive, investing enough time with the people, having inclusion, knowing that there's diversity, and how can I include most of it, that's important. As they rightly say, nazariya badlo, nazare khud ba khud badal jate hain. Aur soch badlo, sitare khud ba khud badal jate hain. So, I
Yeah.
mean, that's very important. That's my take on it.
Right, right. Thank you, Suji. I think so. You have beautifully uh, made us understood different generations. Okay, what they strived for, right? And yeah, and very beautifully you also talked about a different a set of zones that we are into, and definitely yes, one of the very uh, challenging zone for one is the comfort zone, because it is very easily we slip into that, but it takes an effort to come out of that and fear our and share our fears and move towards that growth mindset. And I hope our listeners, our audience are loving the conversations that we are having with both of our eminent speakers. Please, if you any one of you want to get in connect, we will be very happy to make the connection. Please fill in the feedback form. Okay, we'll have your details. We'll make the introduction, and please feel free to drop in the question in Q&A section. So please, very quickly and very briefly, if you like to add anything to that question?
I think she's covered it very beautifully. I also believe in, your energy flows where your intention goes, right?
Mm,
It's about just manifesting things that are there, right?
mm,
Having said that, I think a large piece of information or a large piece of element comes with the fact of how am I as a leader, right? As a person, right? Trying to look at some of those drivers, as again I'm going to talk about them, that on a daily basis that I'm displaying those behaviors, I'm displaying those drivers, right? I think with that, that is very important, right?
mm,
It's just about a thought, right? As Viji, Siji said, right? कि नजरिया बदलो नजारे अपने आप बदल जाते हैं, right? So similarly, I think I feel the same way that आप जैसा सोचोगे, जितना ज्यादा सोचोगे, कई बार आपकी सोच आपके थॉट्स को इन्फ्लुएंस करती है, करेक्ट?
mm,
तो जब आपके थॉट्स इन्फ्लुएंस होते हैं, आपके कॉन्फर्मेशन बाइसेस के डिफेंस कार्ड्स ऊपर हो जाते हैं, right? So you get your all defense cards of confirmation biases up. Now I believe that, okay, this is not a gray wall, this is a blue wall. I'll find everything possible to ensure that my bias gets confirmed here.
mm. Very interesting. Very interesting.
So with that, I think a lot of it is important, is what I feel, that we think, as she said, a lot of introspection is important, right? I call something called not a very positive acronym I'm going to use here, which is called RIP, right? Which is not rest in peace here that I'm going to talk about, right? This is about retrospect, introspect, and prospect. So
Wow.
very important for you to look at the, as again, legacy, right? What have I done in the past, right? That may also include my behaviors. Why am I behaving like this? Why am I a leader who's too of a micromanager? Why am I a leader who's always on top of things? Why am I as a leader I'm too lenient? So that assessment is very important because that depends on the kind of background that you have had. Just like we talk about your childhood defines your adult behaviors, right?
Mm,
So then you introspect right now. Okay, past was this, present is here, and then future, the prospect is over there. So in order to be from here, from a 19 to 20, in order to go that 19 to 20, how many steps do I need to take and what am I supposed to do? So when you combine all this is when you have an answer,
mm,
right? So, and very, very important here, I would like to sum it up here is the fact, I always keep saying it wherever I go generally, is the fact that what you do not repair, you repeat.
Very interesting. Yeah. But a very, very different take and a very interesting take. What you do not repair, you repeat. Yeah. And audience, I think so you can relate it to the mistakes, because if there is some mistake we are making and if we are not repairing it, we are tend to repeat those mistakes over and over again.
Let me add here, right? Here, very, very, very quickly here, is the fact that sometimes we don't even know that we are making a mistake.
Yes.
Right? So that's when your inner work, right? Your mindfulness concepts come into picture, right? Then understanding that if I'm sorry, very weird example, people come back and say, why does that happen to me always? We all question, right? Why, when I go back and start having a conversation with my sibling, we end up fighting? Oh, this person, is very loud, bullies me. But what happens to you? What is triggering you? So you need to identify your own triggers that, okay, listen, this thing triggers me and I need to work on it. And why does that trigger me? Because I have something that is still open that I've not really worked upon and moved on. Hence, that repairing hasn't happened. That's why I'm still stuck in that vicious circle of a whirlpool, always roaming circle, 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 coming back to the same point, circle, coming back to the same point.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Mistakes are absolutely okay, right? As long as you know that these are mistakes, do a new mistake. I come with that philosophy, right? Do something new. Don't repeat.
Don't repeat. I think so. Audience must have loved your retrospect, introspect, and prospect acronym for RIP, a new new RIP definition, but very interesting. Thank you, thank you. Okay, so another interesting area now we are jumping on. Well-being, much talked and sought after, right, is the well-being these days. And whether it's a startup, whether it's a funded startup, bootstrap startup, whether it's a mid-sized company or the large enterprises. Now, because we have been very aggressive in terms of targets, in terms of the expectations that we have as an organization, so this well-being, and because since we are stretching ourselves beyond our limits and we are expecting others to stretch themselves also, the well-being is now at the center. So I'll come to the question now, to CG, first to you. Uh, in terms of initiatives, what are the most overlooked yet impactful well-being initiatives that organization can implement to make well-being integral to their culture?
One interesting pattern that I have observed, especially after whatever we went through in the 2020, is that suddenly people have sat up and took note of lot many things. Okay. There are pressures because everything has got, jumbled up, and many businesses have gone through a lot of painful moments. So there are pressures, there are some things that people are unable to deal with. The moment as soon as the what you say, those breaks were lifted up, or those COVID norms were lifted up, you can come back to workplace. Most of the organizations started saying employee engagement. Let's have everybody come together, team building. Let's go here, let's go there. But what they also realized over a period of time, 1 day or 2 days in an entire 365 days does not really make any difference. You
Right.
have that moments there, and then you go back, and again you're going back to the same ecosystem where nothing else has changed as much. We come with the same space. Now, when we talk about a mental well-being kind of a space, people are, especially in Indian culture, if I say, mainly men, if I look at that, we are socially conditioned to suppress rather than express. Even if you ask some of them, how are you today? Ravi also would say, I'm fine. But there is a lovely thing called as fine, but neither the body language nor the tone supports that, right? So it's a very cliche, very abused kind of a word. It doesn't have any relevance or any meaning. So we are having a very limited vocabulary of even saying something as much. Oh, I'm super happy today. I'm super fabulous today. I'm super awesome. Suddenly everything does change. They rightly say words also cast a spell, and that's why they're called as spellings, right? So you need to be mindful even of certain things like the words that you put in. Now, I was astonished to hear that 78% of our thoughts at any given point in time are negative. Imagine, so we are designed to think negative. It's like a huge white sheet is there, and you find one small speck of dust there or a black dot. People don't see the white sheet, they are able to spot the small white, black dot. Why? Because we're conditioned like that. So a lot of effort comes in for us to get into a space where we look at being more positive. And we all know all of these are leading to a lot of trouble mentally, emotionally, right? We talk about outbursts because we are unable to express what we do, suppress. When we keep suppressing, it's pent up, and one fine day it's like boom, and that boom could be anything. And to trigger it all the more, the recent suicide of a 14-year-old because an AI chat box said, go and kill yourself. That child did that. And again, you will see even today, because again, 1 out of 4 is socially isolated. They don't reach out to people, they reach out to an AI chat box. What should I do? People are going through divorces because the chat box says you're not in a great relationship, you're in a toxic space. Instead of working on it, go ahead and get a divorce. And it's more mental chaos there again, right? It's like the never ending kind of a vicious cycle. Very rightly, Sukhpreet say, what you do not repair, you repeat. We always say, what is unhealed, it keeps giving those triggers over and over again. So I think one very important element for all of us is to embrace the the mistakes or the challenges or the uncertainties, and to be in a space where we can express ourselves more better. Schools need to teach that. We need to expand our vocabulary. We need to teach our current generation, our children, teach ourselves also that there is a wheel of emotion which has 108 emotions. Let me look into that on a regular basis and articulate myself with an expanded vocabulary to express myself so that I am able to communicate effectively to the person on the other side. Boy, I'm not in a great space. Please have a look at me, right? The reaching out is totally left there. So we do not reach out because internally we are so isolated. We are a loner. We are all by ourselves. We feel there's nobody who can understand us. That's because the person on the other side glorifies themselves so much that they fail to say that we've gone through the same issues and struggles in our life. I've been through that shithole which you're going through right now. People do not show that up. People put on a great, a great facade kind of a thing. Okay, I am in this wow space, but they do not know what's the BTS behind the scenes.
Right.
And so because of that, because of no sharing, no expression, I think we really need to rewire, retune, reprogram the way we are.
Right.
That's my take on
No,
it.
very interesting and a very elaborated thought and a very honest thought, I will say, Siji. Okay. And leaders and audiences, please take these voices, uh, these notes very important because these are very honest opinions, and you may or may you may agree or you may disagree to those, but do have a thought on those things. Now, Supreet, coming from what Siji is saying, I believe she's saying that organizations and people should also invest in reaching out. Okay, today, as we are social animal, we have already been saying that. Now, keeping that in the mind, what are in terms of strategies itself, okay? Because, or in terms of policies itself, okay? What will you suggest that the organization must have in these times?
So I think I'll answer this from the policies and the strategies piece that you spoke about. I think a lot of companies have not matured. Let me be very honest.
Okay.
A lot of companies have not matured. They are matured on papers.
Right.
I'm talking the dark side of the, there is this a rosy picture and there is this dirty picture. So I'm talking about the dirty picture right now. Okay. Jokes apart. So while rosy picture stays at, oh, I have these 10 things for you. You can go and talk to this, plan counselor and there's 30 languages or there are 24 different time zones available and blah, blah, blah. But reality is that, I mean, I remember having a conversation with someone, right, wherein I learned that some person used this mental well-being tool to fire people.
Oh. Oh my God.
I am not talking about what was being on LinkedIn for a very long time. I'm talking about even way before that it happened.
Okay.
That people are absolutely immature. You may be educated, but you may not be having that kind of intellect. There is a difference between being intellectual, intelligent, educated, and literate. You can't just replace or use it as a synonym for something else. Absolutely not. Having said that, companies focus, oh, we have mental wellness, we have physical wellness, right? Where is the outcome? Zero. Right? If people have many sessions, there are leaders I've come across who say that, oh my God, 35 sessions in 2 days, people are stressed. Let's relook at how we hire different people who are not stressed. Or let's look at, so there is the people are, as I said, policies look very nice on papers, right? I may glorify it and get multiple, accolades all across. But reality is different. We still aren't matured. We still haven't accepted, right? I am asking this open question to everybody. How many of you have gone back and made that culture in your team, right? Well-being starts with a very simple thing. I recently changed the word sick to well-being, right? It's a concept, right? How many of you allow the teams to come forward and absolutely tell you that, listen, I won't come tomorrow because I have to go on a date with my husband or with my wife no, you have not. They have social well-being. Or I won't be able to make it tomorrow because I have to go for a bank or something mess happened. People will say, I won't be there. Why I'm not there? What is happening? Nothing is there. So a lot of facets that we don't even touch base on. You have social well-being for your people, right? You have financial well-being for your people. There are different sorts of well-beings that are there. We don't talk about it at all. CG spoke very interestingly here is about the fact that too much of AI, right?
Mm.
Too much of AI. Honestly, everything is AI. I mean, my organization is into AI. I don't be talking about it, but everything is into AI too much, right?
Yeah.
But what is missing right now is a natural intelligence, emotional intelligence. We are
Mm.
losing things. She rightly said we are losing things on how we all really operate at a very different realm of life.
Mm.
So companies do talk about mental well-being, they talk about this, but when it comes to really leading it, there is a massive gap right now. We still haven't matured. We still haven't gone to the level that we anticipate ourselves to be there. And at the end of the day, well-being is just not emotional. Well-being is just not physical. Well-being has numerous other facets, as I spoke about, which
Mm.
revolves around your financial well-being, social well-being, right?
Right. Right.
It revolves around your well-being, around how you maybe around a lot of environments for that matter. So
Mhm.
having said that, companies have not really gone to that level, right? And when I say that companies, or when I say companies, when I'm not talking about one organization, but I'm generally talking about this. She said something interesting, that I learned something from AI and I blindly followed it. I haven't done that in her work. I listen to 30 different influencers talking about, okay, invest in X stock, Y stock, Z stock, and end up investing everywhere, right? I believe in a concept. Sorry for being too crude right now. Nobody's dumb.
Yeah.
Nobody's dumb,
Right.
right? We just get, I would say, we just get carried away sometimes,
Yeah.
right? Because of a lot of factors.
Mm.
So focus not just on AI, is what I say. Focus on NI, which is called
Mm.
natural intelligence, your own sense, your gut feeling, dude, right? If I say this mug is black and I keep saying black, 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 no, we'll be like, no, it's not black. मैं हिंदी में एक चीज बोलूंगा आपको कि अगर मैंने मन में एक थॉट बना लिया है कि मेरे सामने जो ये कर्टन है या पत्थर है वो भूत है, राइट? तो वो भूत मुझे भूत भी लगेगा, उसकी आंखें भी होंगी, वो उड़ेगा भी और थोड़ी देर में मुझे पचास भी कर, right? So this is how it operates. So you need the natural intelligence
Yeah.
followed by an emotional quotient and emotional intelligence to understand behaviors of people,
Mm.
which is a long, inner work that requires. I mean, you don't have to become a monk and go to Himalayas and sit through in those, asanas and then do those, सालों की ऐसी तपस्या करने की कोई जरूरत नहीं. Just that a lot of basics, if you get them at place, things will be taken care of. As basic as starting from your team saying that, listen, if you're not feeling good,
Mm.
do not operate.
Right. Very interesting. Thank you, Sukhpreet. And I think so. This 1 hour, I did not realize that now we are just towards the end of the time of an hour, and I'm sure that audience will are definitely looking forward for more because I'm loving the conversation. I'm sure my audiences would also be loving the conversation. And rightly said, Sukhpreet, that organizations need to now create those kind of a policies which are high on natural intelligence, which promotes natural intelligence, high on emotional quotient, rather than just to have those policies which are there for the sake. And I can share with you and to my listeners that I know organizations which have given away the leave system. There is no policy on leave. You can take unlimited leaves. They're believing that they are making their employees mature in understanding what about their contributions to the organization, and they are taking accountability and responsibility for the same, and keeping that in the mind, they can themselves decide, okay, when to take leaves and when not to take leave. There's no pressure on, okay, no, you don't have to take leaves, okay. So it is all about more collaborative kind of a mindset, uh, less restrictive, okay, focusing on one's own well-being, whether at a personal scale or whether it's an organization level.
I'd just like to add one point
Please,
here.
Sukh.
It's the fact it's about creating safe space. I think
Yes.
companies have created a lot of uh, quote unquote safe policies. They have safeguarded businesses practices, but I think a lot of work to be done to create that safe space between individuals at workplace, that wherein you can go ahead and at least be a little more transparent in how you feel, what you feel at the end of the day. And then,
Right.
as you started in the beginning, that has a lot of element or dependency on bringing joy or anger at work.
I
Yeah.
just want to add on with what
Please.
Sukhpreet
Yeah.
said, I have observed or rather been through a lot of organizations. Let me say the BFSI sector. And there
Mhm.
are many leaders who come back and say that, after going through a workshop, they really feel the need to reflect and pass it on to their team members too. But what happens when they go back into the workplace? They're given numbers. They
Hmm.
have to drive targets and numbers. And then what they decided is actionable to invest more time with their colleagues and team members to know them better, to get them aligned, get them more emotionally, psychologically safe space. All of that just remains as a theory for them. It doesn't get into practice because as soon as you're back after a 2-day workshop, you are on the burner that you've missed out 2 days. Now you have target for the week and you have to complete it. And when you are driving numbers, you forget everything that has to do with the human quotient or the emotional quotient. Then everything is out of the window. So I feel a lot has to start right from the top down when you make things a little more connectable, relatable, easier for people to align with rather
Hmm.
than just driving numbers and numbers. Because at the end of the day, we are talking about human beings.
Right.
And that's something that we all need to keep in mind before driving numbers or anything of that matter.
Right. Very well, making way for that joy, and setting it as one of the values in the culture of the organization. Definitely, yes, we have to work a long way, because we are now in a very volatile state of businesses and in the society also, where we are trying to find the balance between personal and professional life, and somewhere we have forgotten that joy, though we all come dressed well to do good work in the offices, but somewhere that quotient of that being joyful, somewhere we are missing. And I urge everyone, right, to our listeners, to and leaders, to bring it back, think it very carefully how we can bring that joy, inculcate it as a culture in our organization. So I'll thank, with that note, I'll end the webinar, and thank you, Sukhpreet. Thank you, Siji, to find out time and accept our invitation for the webinar. I'm sure we can do more webinars on more engaging topics. Thank you once again, and thank you, audience, for joining. Thank you once again. We will, for those who have filled out the forms, we will love to make the connection. Thank you.
Thanks for having us
All
here.
right.
And as a last note, aspire to inspire before you expire.